We'll go look at the Copper Garden shop on a very rainy afternoon in March. Not a really fun time to be out and about, but you know what? I've been waiting a while to do this. I think it's time that people understand what a copper shop looks like inside more completely. The reason I'm doing this, I've had students come, customers come, many people come who they're just amazed at the amount of tooling that is involved. And I think I may have sold people short, certainly not intentionally, but I'm afraid that people get the impression that this is a little tiny place with a stool and a bench and a hammer and a pair of shears, and we put all this stuff together. Well, nothing could be even farther from the truth. This is our little miniature showroom, and I'm sorry that it's in such a state, but so is the rest of the shop. It's just destroyed right now, and that's the reality of a busy shop. We just got in from a show. We just unloaded the trailer. This is the way it looks. It's kind of sad, isn't it? I love this table base with this high texture, tree trunky looking texture. It's one of my favorites. I'll show you the machine that does that in a little bit. This is the scene from a home down in the Bahamas where a customer spent a good deal of money with me, and I was able to spend some time there helping them fix some things that were damaged in a hurricane. So that was a lovely bit of a visit. But here's the rest of the shop. Now, I'm going to try to go through here rather quickly, but I want to point out that there are so many things in here. Bandsaws. There are probably 4, 5, or 6. I have never counted them all. Here's one big laydown bandsaw. Here's the machine that does that texture that I pointed out on that table base a moment ago. Very unusual machine. This one is a Japanese knockoff of a Pullmax. It's an excellent old tool. This is a baby. They get much, much, much bigger than this, although this one is almost perfect for my purposes. Over in this corner is our somewhat miniature machine shop. Another stand-up bandsaw, an old LeBlanc lathe, an old tree mill, a beautiful old mill, just an excellent piece of equipment, and modernized only slightly for us with a DRO readout so I can tell where my tooling is at all times. Nothing's cleaned up right now. I didn't want this to be a highly polished, kind of a phony video. I wanted you to see how it works, how it looks, and just to see there's not a tool here. All of these things that you see, these are things that I use. I'm not even going to explain them all. Why do I have a great big shop vac? Got to clean this dump up once in a while. I've got another vac that is just for this tool alone. As I pick it up, it turns itself on because I made it that way. It's a special little switch that I made. Toolbox is from my racing years, my auto shop repair years. Probably that's 35, 36, 37 years old. I don't know. It's as good as the day it was born. Here's a brake, a finger brake. See the little fingers? There's a shear, a good old Pexto shear. Probably that tool was made in the 50s, maybe. I had one that was built in 1898. Looked almost like that, and it was still an excellent tool. I have to have these tools. Here's one of my many 3 or 4 steel tables. 4, I think, all on wheels. Things have to move around here. This one's only a 1/4 inch thick, but 2 or 3 of them are 1/2 inch thick. Here's a roll-around table that our 2 air hammers live on. Air hammers come from TM Technologies in Nevada City, California. Tin Man Tech. www. Tin Man Tech. Best place in the world for hammers. By the way, they are for much, much more than copper work. People who restore all manner of things, including cars, boats, airplanes, and whatnot, need these hammers, and they use them a lot. This is a component that I've adapted to one of these hammers. It's an old pipe thread, very old American-made pipe threading device. I use it to turn pipe slowly while I'm texturing it in the lathe, in the air hammer. This device right here is what allows me to make bamboo. This piece right here is something I made. I've never seen it anywhere else. So far as I know, I'm the only guy that makes bamboo the way I do. A notching tool. I think it's very important. I use it a lot. Here's a laydown bandsaw, something that I built on an old drill press frame, and it allows me to slide table bases, tables that I've created with weird shaped legs. I can slide them through here one at a time, and they all end up coming out the same height. Remarkable. A Miller welder, just as old as the hills, probably 35, 38 years old. They've made a lot newer ones. They've never made a better one. I had it fixed. A little small item broke the other day, and the gentleman that repaired it for me said, don't ever get rid of it. They don't make them this good anymore. We use a plasma torch quite a lot. Gas for the plasma torches right here. Double check that it's off. Yes, thank you, it is. Not for the plasma torch, I'm sorry. That is the argon for the TIG welder. And the cutoff saw that I use a lot is just a standard old wood saw, but it has a special blade that has a negative rake. It's good to have a negative rake so that it does not bite into the work that you're cutting and destroy it. This big roll-around rack over here that I store copper on and steel and plywood and cardboard and everything else on is just unbelievably important. Storing this stuff any other way would take up so much space. Some of the other stuff you see here is just stuff. It just has to be somewhere, and that's where it is. Rafts and rafts of extra gauges for classes when we need plenty of gauges for teaching. There's shut-off valves, a great big torch that I rarely use. We use little tiny ones, not these great big monstrosities that just wear your hand out when you're using them all the time. Now, we'll go into the bigger room where 90% of the work is done. This is my big table, big, heavy, half-inch thick, 4x8-inch table on rollers. Underneath it is all kinds of other hand tools of, I don't know, I won't even describe them. There's dozens of them under there. There's all kinds of anvils, and many of them I make. As you can see, this is an oddball with a trailer hitch, a spike of some sort, a tooth off of a tractor. Just a wonderful piece of equipment. I need it, I love it. And I have a receiver at the other end of the same table for the same kind of tools. So sometimes I'll be setting up with oddball requirements for hammering, and I'll have one set up on either end. Another Snap-on toolbox, always full of just a little bit of everything. I can't even go through it all. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Some are really, really standard. Some are not. But there's a lot of them. The little MIG welder. Handy for making fixtures, jigs, and things that you need that just are indescribable until the day comes that you need them. You know what you need. Nobody makes it. You got to make it right here. Best tool in the shop is this old concrete sink. I love this thing. I would never use one of those stupid plastic things that they make now. An array of chemicals for coloring and cleaning. What would be next? The punch press, nah, kind of a piece of old Chinese junk. We don't use it much. Nice big long rack to store the long lengths of pipe, and back underneath it are some steel, brass, and various other bits and pieces that you need for constantly building things. Over here are miles and miles of sanding discs and grinding discs and polishing discs and belts, and it goes on and on and on. The hand tools, I don't even know how many I have. I would say 50 to 80. I don't know. It's probably something in that range. Our torches are these little tiny little beauties. Look at that thing. Is that sweet? That's a Miko Midget, a little tiny guy. And this valve that it rests on shuts the gas off. You don't fool with the gauge, with the valves every time you pick it up. You pick it up, you go over to this lighter, it's lit, and you go to work. Almost the most important tool in the shop. Here's a project underway where we're doing some bamboo. This is going to an arbor up in near Seattle, and that's currently pretty far along, underway. Here's a leaf that I made, I think, just yesterday in the hammer out there. Isn't that fun? That's about 20 minutes of work right there. Now, this big project here, earlier videos on YouTube have talked about this one. You may have seen some of it. It's now been stalled for about 2.5 months for a variety of reasons out of my control. The customer is okay with that. She's happy. We'll be getting back onto it very soon. Another steel table. Here's a roller device that I put lines and veins into leaves and things with. If you think you've never seen one before, it's because that's the only one. I made it. It's a cheap Chinese junk, except I added the feature of the air that raises and lowers the rollers, so I can start and stop where I choose to. And when it's rolling, it allows us to do anything we want to. So simple little tools allow us to do so many things. Belt sanders are almost a mandatory necessity here. This great big one is a 3-phase. By the way, I should tell you that we do have probably 6 or 8 3-phase tools in the shop. That means your electricity has to be 3-phase. If you don't know what that means, I'd be happy to tell you, but I'm not going to go into that on this video. Little baby belt sander is very common that we use. Another buffer or polisher. Probably one of the main cutting tools in the shop is this little old cheap, relatively cheap. They're about $300, $300 350 or so, wood cutting bandsaw. It runs just about the right speed for copper. Very slow wood cutting speed is a very, very nearly perfect copper cutting speed. So we do a lot of cutout of leaves and all manner of shapes on this little saw. Our gas for our gas welding is some distance away. I like to plumb it away from the flame, partly for safety and partly because these big tanks are just in the way when you put them anywhere else. So I run a hose over to there, over to this gas saver valve, and then I take my little bitty hose out of here with my little bitty lightweight but absolutely excellent, a completely adequate flame power out of here. This too can be bought from Tin Man Tech online, www.tinmantech. Now that's the end of the story. I don't want this to be long. I'm not trying to brag. The shop's a mess, and for these purposes, I don't care. This is the way it is. It is frequently this messy when we are this busy. We have several projects working. We have several waiting in the wings. We have to make additional items like bowls and special wall art and leaves and the things that we sell at shows to help pay our way to go to them. And so it's constantly working. Many times it's much cleaner than this, but this is the reality of busy life at the Copper Gardens shop. So I hope you enjoyed this little walkthrough. If you have questions, I'm happy to field them. Go to our website, coppergardens.com. That's gardens with an S. Go to our contact us page. Send me a note. I'll tell you what I can. I like to help people get started in copper work. We teach classes. We'd be happy to have you come here and learn. No more than 6 at a time. We schedule them each month. That's also on the website. If you're a potential client, now you have a little better idea where we do what we do and what it takes. All of these things matter. They matter sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot. Sometimes this work cannot happen without a shop full of tools. So I hope it's been educational. It's been fun telling you about it. Thanks for watching.